Are you ready for the golden age? The Quantum Galaxy Network presents Making Life Brighter on the Voice America Variety Channel, where we prepare you and the planet for the golden age. Making Life Brighter features experts in their field and visionaries sharing their unique keys for sustainability on Earth, including all cutting-edge healing modalities, consciousness training, and natural healing. Tune in every Thursday for valuable golden nuggets of universal harmony and coherency with body, mind, and spirit. Each week, Winifred introduces you to thought leaders, best-selling authors, influencers, and Grammy Award-winning musicians. Making Life Brighter is your source for inspiring us to live in cooperation and purpose as we prepare for the golden age and beyond. The Quantum Galaxy Network invites you to join Making Life Brighter as we prepare for the golden age. Making Life Brighter is your forum for healing, inspiring, and uplifting entertainment. Here is your host, Winifred Adams.
Hello out there. I hope everybody's going jolly. Thanks for listening. You're tuning in to Making Life Brighter Radio here on the Variety Channel on Voice America, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams. And we have been here for a long time, but we are on a new trajectory now. And that new trajectory is helping the people of the planet to prepare for the golden age. So what is that golden age? Well, that golden age is something we've been talking about since last August here on this channel. And the golden age, as I've mentioned before, is a dimensional frequency that sits outside of the regular 3D reality. And that dimensional frequency is a space and a place similar to what we might call 5D reality. But the golden age, the time that's coming, has many references, and some are biblical, some are mystical, some are esoteric and spiritual or spirit related. But the truth is, it's kind of science. And the science is, when you are in a different energy frequency, which we've talked about often on the show, you have a certain set of experiences. And when you change your frequency, then you have a new set of experiences. So in the work that I do as a medical intuitive and as a quantum healer, we are always dealing with and talking about the person's frequency. We're talking about how open their heart is, since the heart is like a transducer of sorts. It's even a transmuter of messages and energy. And as I've mentioned before, something that my master teacher taught me is that the heart opens into the oversoul, which is kind of above the third eye area. And then the oversoul speaks to the spirit. And the spirit is what we refer to, and we often interchange those words, spirit, soul, but they're really two different things. And the soul of a person, or the oversoul of a person, is like the interface into the infinite, which is their spirit. And the infinite space is that unconditional loving space, that all I am portion of the person, but it's without the identity of the ego persona. So a lot of people say to me, what is the ego? Well, the ego is a hard construct. Think of it like you're a computer, and in your built-in software, there's this thing called an ego. And when you come to Earth in a body, in a vessel, you're programmed with a contract ahead of time. And the contract says you're going to work to overcome this and this and this and this in this lifetime. And you'll be met with these challenges, and you'll be given choices to make. And based on the choices you do make, then it changes a little bit of the outcome of that contract. Although some things are hard and they're fixed. So when there's a certain accident, a certain illness, something like that, that's severe or, let's say, unexpected, there are some of those things on your contract timeline that are fixed dates, and you will go through those things no matter what. But some of those things on your contract you can alter. And you might even alter the contract extension or the contract itself based upon your everyday thinking. So your everyday management of your frequency, no matter your circumstances, alters how you progress along the timeline on that contract. So good or bad really doesn't come into play as much as energy management and the energy management of frequency and how you take it in, how you're expressing it. And like I spoke about last week, I hinted at radiation, although this kind of radiation is more of a spiritual energy radiation. So people think that they can just tune into their spirit. Well, really, they're tuning into a portion of their spirit, and you earn your way toward that all-encompassing, unconditional loving I am portion of you. And as you work along at that, you have to change your energy field to bring it down to very subtle energy fields, and you go deeper and deeper into an experience where you sort of suspend your personality and that ego construct that you have hardwired in your software. Now, based on your personality and your life lessons, that ego software, that ego hard copy, will be either muted, quieted, or built up stronger. And the stronger it gets, the louder it gets. The louder it gets, the more it disturbs the harmony of the frequency of your actual spirit. And when that happens, people tend to have personality glitches or issues with personality or issues or extreme issues with health and wellness. That is where the management of the subtle frequencies helps to come into balance out maybe the construct of the, I say construct because it is sort of like putting a cloud together, and it's like a conglomeration of energy that's like your built-in tester. So your built-in tester is testing you at all times to see if you can hold your frequency stable, and you can come from an open-hearted point of view at all times, a loving, higher, encompassing frequency that is balanced and basically pleasant and sweet. So the sweetness becomes automatic over time when you are in tune with your own frequency. People are taught at an early age, which I've been sharing with clients recently, to be high and low. They're taught to be extremely happy, as in giddy high happy. And if they're not giddy high happy, they think something's wrong. It's kind of like people that have ringing in their ears and they can't get rid of it. And sometimes they think something's wrong, and sometimes there is something wrong. But oftentimes it's their spirit coming into their right ear and they're getting an inkling of it. And if you were to sit and listen to it, you'd actually relax and feel much more at ease. But there are two differentials. Sometimes there's a medical condition, and sometimes there's just the ignorance of not realizing what that is doing and why it's there. So as we grow along from the time we're born in this body, we are socially conditioned, we're socially imprinted, and we're imprinted with certain ideas of others. We're imprinted with the concept of how to conduct ourselves. And usually that concept is not balanced lovingness. There's usually an ego construct, especially when we start comparing parents, when we start comparing relatives, sisters, brothers, siblings. You're usually running up against someone else's ego vying for attention or justifying a position. And so that usually as a child has you taking the road of least resistance and beginning to agree with that. So you learn that behavior. When in fact, Were you to stay in the sweetness of your spirit, you'd let that energy pass you by, but you wouldn't hold on to it and begin to mimic it. This is really important because it sets the stage for lifelong illnesses, lifelong personality challenges, and perhaps even challenges in different sections or sectors of your life because of what you've been exposed to or conditioned by early on. It can be societal, it can be countrywide, it can be just familial. But whatever it is that's imprinting a child, more often than not, so far in this day and age, we have not had an example of that balance that I'm speaking of that you'll find in the coming golden age. And that balance is a beautiful giving and an acceptance of what is. And if you continue to be in the sweetness of the giving and the acceptance of what is, you will navigate more easily into the spaces that hold you closer to your spirit at all times. And closer to spirit is not a psychic, I know, but rather it's a suspended feeling of relaxation and contentment. And contentment is really where the joy comes in. So people think that joy is something that you have to smile about or be happy about, where you can be perfectly content and joyful without smiling. You can smile, but I'm saying that we are conditioned to have a reaction as joy, as opposed to really, truly being centered and joyful in the core of our being. The joy that we seek to be and emanate is really in that still space, in the quiet within your own spirit. So when we come back from break, we're going to talk about some of the things I mentioned last week, and we'll go a little deeper into this concept because this is a major turning point right now, right here this summer is a major turning point around the bend to where we're heading in the next year, 2 years, 5 years. This window of time can set up for your next year into your next 10 years. And if you catch this window and you use it properly, you can lay down a foundation that helps you navigate in a way that has you always leaning back to spirit. So that's where we're headed. You're listening to Making Life Brighter, so stay tuned. We've got much more for you right here. I'm going to go into radiation in the not so friendly kind and how you can protect yourself from that. We're going to talk more about some of our conductivity stones. So stay tuned. I'm Winifred Adams, and you are listening to Making Life Brighter, where we're talking about medical intuition, quantum healing, and helping you prepare to go to the golden age and beyond. We'll be right back.
One man is growing old and one man is being told that.
Welcome back to Making Life Brighter with host and leading medical intuitive Winifred Adams on the Voice America Variety Channel, your preferred choice for conscious education and entertainment, featuring experts in their field and visionaries preparing the planet for the golden age and beyond. For more information, visit us at makinglifebrighter.com in the media section. Be sure to like us on Facebook at Making Life Brighter. If you have questions or comments, please email us at radio@makinglifebrighter.com. That's radio@makinglifebrighter.com. And now, back to the show with your host, Winifred Adams.
Thanks for listening today and being with us here on Making Life Brighter. And if you have questions or comments, you can reach out to me. I know that the show says radio@makinglifebrighter.com, but you can reach me direct at makinglifebrighter@yahoo.com. And if you are interested in healing sessions, quantum healing, and a new course series that I'm going to offer very soon here called the Ascension Series. And the Ascension Series is a very special, in-depth, deep dive, life-altering walk into the science behind consciousness and the science behind the atomic particles and how that affects consciousness and what that means for humanity and how we navigate that ego construct I was talking about, and the ways in which you can work with energy and, let's say, spiritual radiation of the loving kind that will actually help you to advance on your soul journey where you are seeking to go to. All souls are seeking that kind of harmony. Some might say they don't care, but that's not really true at the end of the day. And I know that from having worked with many, many people that have come to their final days due to illness or extreme illness. And no matter how hardened their heart had been in life, when they get to that point, there's always something really beautiful that happens. And that beautiful is that they come to a realization and they set down all the heavy barriers. The barriers go away and the person is allowed to see, feel themselves as they really could have been all along. And that really that they were all along, that they are even in this moment. So the goal is really to capture the moments, the now spaces that you live in. And as I say, don't waste your heartbeats, because I've often told people you have a measured number of heartbeats and sometimes you get a contract extension. I've been a part of that. I've seen that. And sometimes you don't. So since we don't really know what that is, we would be very well advised to value our heartbeats, but more importantly, for the change that you want to see in this world and to bridge into that golden age frequency, that 5D frequency, for all of us to value another person's heartbeats and frequencies. See, we're very selfish at this point in time, very selfish, very self-motivated. I'm going to get mine before it all goes down the drain, right? I'm going to grab what I can. I'm going to advance now. Get what you can. That's what society is teaching us currently and teaching young people. And they can get away with their attitude for now. But see, they don't actually get away with their attitude later, because that attitude, no matter what, will catch up with them. And the hard learning after you practiced taking an attitude like that for a long time is not always easy or pleasant, and can oftentimes even be too much for a soul. The realization, the stark realization of what one could be doing with their energy frequency at all times, and then what one has been doing, is usually what I see on people's sick beds or their deep dives into self. The feeling of lost time can be a real thing for folks, but grace is always standing there when you genuinely realize that and begin to correct. So when you correct the position of loving kindness and you sidestep, let's say, others that aren't yet coming to that position because they can be distracting to you, you're in a space where you can pick up a more clear and loving frequency of your own spirit, and you automatically adjust. By and large, children lean toward their loving self. They go through learning curves of selfishness and learning curves of, testing that ego tester in them. But overall, if encouraged with spirit with God as spirit, as a loving kindness coming from the parent to the child and surrounding, then the child usually will choose a more loving way of being. Now, there are such things as negative frequencies and negative polarities, and people will call that evil. And there is kind of an evil construct that's in the world that is also a tester. And it's a tester to keep your energy frequency high to keep your energy frequency pure, to keep your energy stable in a state of being that's of sincere content and joy. And then those things don't touch you as much. It's kind of like whatever you look at expands. So whatever you're focusing on tends to expand out. The energy of radiation of thought forms is far more impactful than we give credit to. And I've often said to people in healings, stop thinking. And they can't stop thinking. They don't know how to stop thinking because their brain has been supercharged for so long in the electrical impulses that it generates around thoughts and feelings and thoughts and feelings, that the chemistry of the body, the hormones and so on go along with that. So it's very challenging to just cease thinking. But when one does cease thinking, then the overriding loving feeling of letting go and surrendering comes to pass. When that happens, one forgets all the troubles of the world and allows the sweetness to be present. That sweetness is a natural state of being, and it changes the hormones instantly, it changes the blood flow, it changes the heart rate. It's scientifically proven to improve one's well-being and state of being immediately. So why don't we choose that more often, and why don't we work at stilling the mind? Well, as I spoke about last week, there's kind of a loud rhetoric that's going on no matter what side of the fence you're on. And that loud rhetoric is working very hard to give the brain an exercise of distraction. And the distraction is listen to me, follow me, come over here and agree with this. The fight is on. We've got the fight. Here's the fight. Whatever side you're on, doesn't matter. All of that is taking away from the more infinite choice of knowingness and the more infinite choice of surrender. So the surrender is really the most divine choice you could make. And sometimes it is a choice, and sometimes people's nervous systems are so tied up it's very hard for them to let go. So they continue to radiate out negative energy, and when they do, they get the karma of it. They get it back. So they radiate it out and then it comes back, and they radiate it out and then it comes back. And to break that cycle is to move over into an area of loving sweetness where slowly you relax and slowly you come into sort of a stasis. So I have often worked with people in having them quiet their bodies so they can begin to point at that and begin to look at how they can come down off of that very tightly wound belief system or subset of beliefs, which creates chemistry in their body. That chemistry creates ill health and it creates loops of thinking. So when you cut that chemistry, now you have the ability to change a body system instantly. And that happens each time I work with somebody. They are changed instantly. But it is not for me as the healer or any other healer to hold you there. It's your responsibility to learn to hold the new space. And if you don't hold the new space, you're responsible for the energy, frequency, and radiation you put out. Healers are able to guide you there and help you and maybe even get through some of the hard stuff. And miracles can happen. Amazing things can take place. But if you flippantly basically let it go, now what? Is it the responsibility of the healer to constantly bring you back to that space? And why is it that you're not learning to hold that space automatically? That's the bigger question. So we work at what gets in the way, and what gets in the way of frequency and of, let's say, anxiety, what gets in the way to create the subset of anxiety or tension in a body oftentimes has to do with how the person has been affected or trained or treated throughout their life. So when we more or less shave off the belief systems and create more of a blank slate, now the spirit can twinkle through, almost like you're taking away the black cloth that blocks the sun, and now you're putting in a mesh screen where the sunlight can come in and come through, and it can reach you. That's what your spirit is doing. It's always seeking you. You're the antenna, and you're one of the most brilliant antennas ever created in the universe. The human body is one of the most magnificent creations ever made. And the cool part is it's just going on and on. Now, people will hijack that narrative today and say, oh, well, they're corrupting it and blah, blah, blah. Okay. We know that the world has evil in it. But when you start to honor how beautiful of a magnificent creation you are, now you begin to shift in your not only biology, but your actual experience of the world around you. And you may have an altogether different experience because of that shift. And that is working in the quantum field. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to deep dive into more of these concepts. And we will continue to talk about radiation, because your state of being is a radiation. And that is paramount. So you're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio. Like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, and we'll be right back.
Man is growing old and one man is being told that
You are listening to Making Life Brighter, a presentation by the Quantum Galaxy Network for the Variety Channel on Voice America, featuring visionaries, thought leaders, and consciousness experts leading the way as we prepare the planet for the golden age and beyond. Right here on Making Life Brighter Radio with your host, leading medical intuitive Winifred Adams. Be sure to download the app. For more information, go to makinglifebrighter.com under media. Now, back to the show with your host, Winifred Adams.
Today, we're talking about frequency and the state of being of your frequency and how that affects you and affects your ability to communicate with your spirit. And so in the work that I do with quantum healing and with assessing people's biofields through medical intuition, you can often see where the blocks are within a body and within a being. And when you've done it for 20 plus years, like I have, you tend to see that automatically. It becomes just a natural way of being. And when you put in your 10,000 plus hours into something, then a shift happens. And a book called The Outliers speaks about this. The Outliers talks about people that have done that, and it's true of anything, whether it's Olympic athletes, pro athletes, someone that takes up, let's say, what we'll call a hobby, but spends basically the entire lifetime at that hobby, and they tend to have just a really amazing gift or skill after about the 10,000 hour mark. So in tapping, which is a modality I use for healing regularly because it's so very profound and it's made such incredible differences in people's biology, and it helps them become aware of themselves in real time as well as alleviate the issues in real time. But the tapping is something that has worked with people in a way that confounds the ego, confounds that underlying construct that they just can't quite get beyond. They can't settle down. They can't relax. The chemistry has a hold of them in that moment, and they just can't shut it off. Where the tapping goes in and almost clips the cord in the brain where the associated belief system or the trigger is sitting there and running the chemistry that you yourself tied to it. So the perceptions that you have create a chemistry in your body, and the chemistry turns around and then gets triggers attached to it based on your experiences and then how you log those experiences. So we never see Buddha all uptight and frustrated and in a hurry. He's always sitting under that beautiful tree in a very Zen position and very quiet. You don't see people that are deeply spiritual running around with their hair on fire. They're usually in a very quiet space that's like a sanctuary of prayer and meditation. And there's something to that. There's something to that sweet, quiet stabilization within. And when we come to that sweet space, we have a different understanding altogether. Yet when we practice against that and then think that we are entitled to an elixir, that doesn't always work. And then people will become more frustrated because something they're applying isn't working. Well, it depends on how much you've accrued and how much energy's in there that needs to get gone and get disbanded overall. So when working in the quantum field is a natural feedback mechanism. It is always broadcasting a balance. It's always broadcasting a 0 point if you'll meet that. Similar to the golden age that I'm talking about, or the 5D reality. 5D is still a base reality. There's many more beyond that, just so you know. It's just what the majority of the populace is talking about right now. But there's more than that in the world. And masters have always come to the earth plane to share that more and guide souls to that more. So don't be hoodwinked by those that think they know it all at the 5D mark, because if they can't take you to the face of God, they don't know it all. That's a fact. There is a graduation through different dimensional frequencies that a person will naturally progress through. And the graduation is something that is a normal, natural evolution of a soul. And the awareness, and some will call it knowledge, but the awareness of a state of being creates more awareness. And that awareness allows more conductivity, more flow. So we always say, are we in the flow? Are you catching the vibe? Is the vibe flowing? Oh, the energy stopped. Well, in healing today, you'll hear a lot of the energy gets backed up, so we have to free the energy. We have to open up the conductivity through the heart space, through all the way to the spirit, and change out that black cloth to the mesh so that the light can come in. Now, I'm talking about the stem cell patches often, and I'm using them regularly, both on pets and people. And the stem cells have proven to be an amazing tool to grow and expand your telomeres. The stem cells are reaching for the light. They are looking for that consciousness and awareness in the light field. They're even picking up oscillation, which is sound. And those telomeres do double time between light and sound. And so when you learn how to accurately tune into light and sound, now suddenly you have a different bio experience, and getting over yourself or your personality construct becomes much easier. The patches, the stem cell patches that I feature on makinglifebrighter.com are tremendous tools at this juncture in time for helping a body move into a space of loving kindness, compassion, and awareness. Because the more light you bring into the field, the more the nervous system can heal, the more the body systems can heal. And if they can heal, now you're coming into this display of sort of a slate, a blank slate before you acquired all these behaviors and beliefs and thoughts. It's like taking you back to being a child again, where you didn't have so much piled on top of you. They're very profound tools at this juncture of time. And I love to use these. So if you have questions about the stem cell patches, please reach out at makinglifebrighter@yahoo.com, and we can set appointment time and a consult and talk about that, because they are very, very powerful tools, both for your pets and for you. Everything is about frequency, and actually everything is about how you can hold light. If you're nervous and fearful, you can't hold light. So you'll flip-flop automatically. You'll go back and forth and back and forth. I was talking with someone the other day, and they were talking to me about a podcast that they had heard about copper. And so copper is one of those trace-based minerals, and something you can use on jewelry or around your wrist or whatever to balance. But copper is really a mineral that you should be intaking along with other trace minerals of things, aluminum and so on. We would say, oh, we don't want aluminum in our body. You do want trace amounts of all minerals in your body, because it's natural that plants that you would eat pick up these trace minerals along with the enzymes within the plant, and they blend together to help balance your body system. They help you with the conductivity and the flow. As a matter of fact, the fellow that developed the stem cell patches has copper as one of his leading ingredients for helping the stem cell patches activate and work better. So after much research and listening to his talks, I looked at all the things that I know that I can apply with someone, and the ionic trace minerals with acai, which can be found at makinglifebrighter.com under the link for the flower essences, Nature Sunshine link. The ionic trace minerals with acai has trace copper in it. But with the blend of all the other minerals in there, it actually is a comprehensive blend that balances the conductivity within a body. And in this case, it helps stimulate the stem cell patches more. But let's say you don't have the stem cell patches. It helps balance all of the flow of energy in the body. And I can tell you from years of experience of using this with people that people heal 10 times quicker when taking it. They can come back from their deathbed with these minerals. They are amazing. And it's not that you're taking one specific mineral. You're not taking one thing, but you're taking a blend of minerals that balances the frequency and the harmonic and the conductivity, the flow of energy in your body. And so where you might be having a twit or a fit, or you're upset that day, or your energy's high and you're disturbing your body systems, the minerals in balance can help you come off of that much quicker and settle much sooner. So there is a real harmonic component to minerals. Now, if we wear minerals, we put them on our body like you put a copper bracelet on, it's been known to help channel higher vibrations and help to balance the flow of energy, which is why people use it for arthritis and other things, because arthritis is like a backup of inflammation. It's a constant inflammatory response. It also can be caused by, say, an overacid body. Well, the trace minerals in balance would help you not have so much of an overacid body. It would sort of correct it at the core. So when we are looking at certain things, we're looking at all the components of it. And when I assess a person and their body systems, I am looking at every portion of them, from the biological to the frequency to where the light gets backed up in their system, to a single organ versus an organ system, and the harmonics of all of it and everything in between. And when we come back from break, we're going to talk about that radiation. We're going to talk about that dulce. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in this world of all this crazy flooding. So we'll be right back. They always said, watch the water, and water is conductive. And that's what's happening right now. We will be right back. Stay tuned.
Gonna break free tonight.
Welcome back. For more information, please visit us at makinglifebrighter.com. If you'd like more information on intuitive coaching, coursework, or to book an appointment with medical intuitive Winifred Adams, please email us at radio@makinglifebrighter.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook and download the app. Go to makinglifebrighter.com for more information. And now, back to the show with your host, Winifred Adams.
We're back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and I'm your host, Winifred, today. And we are talking about the quantum field, quantum healing. And I want to just shout out a real heartfelt, we're with you over there in Vermont. It's sad that there is so much destruction that just took place in these floods. And these water events, these high extreme weather events, I don't think are going away anytime soon. As a matter of fact, it's always been said, watch the water, right? Well, the water is a flushing. It is a change. Mother Earth has her right to do whatever she needs to do to kind of flush out things. And then, of course, we have some other things going on that maybe aren't as organic and natural and are amplifying a bit of the destruction that's taking place. So what we do need to do, though, is recognize that there's a greater force beyond any of us and beyond any one human being. And that consciousness force, that energy, is capable of doing a lot of things in our world, whether we like it or not, but it also has an account of everything that's going on in the world. And that is working out on multiple dimensional fields constantly, all at the same time. So while we witness something in the 3D arena right here, there is a working out of something else on the 5D arena. And not to discount what's going on in the 3D arena at all, but rather to take heed, to remember that there is an accountability to what's taking place here, and there is a working out on other dimensional fields in real time of what's happening. So it's a good idea to kind of stay steady. And going back to the idea of copper right now, the concept of flow, the concept of conducting energy, which is really, in this case, going back to where we started today, and that's managing frequency. But copper is an element. It's a metal that helps the channeling of energies, right? So if you were to wear a copper bracelet or wear something with copper on it, for example, you might be able to wear it for a little while, and then sometimes you might have to take that off because it's too much. That's when you start to recognize what your own body is telling you. And that lends to the idea of learning to manage your frequencies. But copper is a really interesting metal because what it does is it carries the energy of your thoughts and your emotions. And so we are talking about that today. We're talking about how thoughts change your biology, thoughts change your frequency, thoughts change everything. How do you control your thoughts? How do you control your thinking? So it can help a person kind of become aware of the unconscious or inner dialogue that's going on all the time. And that's helpful because, let's say, if we were to dissect whole sections of people, like I've seen in my career where many people come in with one symptom or one issue. Can you help this? Can you fix this? Is there something we can do? And what you begin to see over time is there is a certain commonality among those peoples with the same symptoms. And the commonality, let's say, in arthritis, can oftentimes be a bit of stuffed energy, stored energy, maybe even in the form of anger. And when you start asking questions and going deeper into what people have, it becomes apparent that these folks have similar issues on a level that is more emotional. So copper can help to kind of, let's say, help the energy flow and help become aware of your thought forms. It also is really good at helping with the formulation of red blood cells. And as you're imprinting new cells every second of every day, you want to be careful what you're thinking because you are imprinting the new cells that come into your body. So if you'd like a healthier body, you have to correct your thinking. And when you correct your thinking, now you have a better imprint on the next cellular structure that is proliferating in your system and carrying a frequency. Healing is not about always correcting what you've not done well in the past, but rather getting ahead of that so that you are no longer doing that and having to correct it. People become very addicted to healing. I'm going to go for this thing, I'm going to go for that thing, I'm going to use more of this and do more of that, when in fact, they need to learn to settle so that they get ahead of what it is they're creating. So copper, again, can be helpful in the formation of tissues, but it also can be really helpful in the repair of tissues. Now, speaking of the stem cell patches again, what happens when you put on one of these stem cell patches that are made of crystalline structures like the X39, you are able at that point to stimulate your own copper peptides in your skin, in your body. And those copper peptides turn around and they help create the stimulation going to your healthy stem cells. So you are recreating more healthy stem cells yourself. No one's putting other stem cells on you or in you, but rather you are creating that vibratory frequency which stimulates the healthy stem cell production, and now healing can occur. So it's pretty neat how all this goes together. Now there's a radiation of another kind they're threatening out there, like the radiation that's coming from kind of nuclear things and maybe toxic things and toxic waste. And that radiation, unfortunately, you can't escape from easily. You can be very spiritually aware, but your biology may not be able to overcome that. So it's better if we don't enter into something like that. But let's say like Fukushima was a problem, and some people say, no, that's not really what happened. Well, something happened because I lived on the West Coast and my peach tree curled up, turned orange, and died. So I had to go out and through a few years of loving radiation, of loving light, and putting my hands on the tree and holding it in a loving, beautiful prayer position, the tree came back completely. And that is a shift in radiation. Then the animals came because they could feel the radiation and the love put into the tree. And so I would sit there literally with the raccoons and eat the peaches together. That's for sure. That's real. I have that on video. And we would share the peaches together. But we were sharing the radiation of love that was put into that. And so, yes, you can override that which is damaging with love, but there is a physical challenge that could be very deadly. So I mentioned last week about dulse and iodoral. I really love the iodoral. It's a potassium iodide formula, but people are taking the iodoral for many symptoms, many issues. And these issues across the board, the whole body can be strengthened for people that have weakness or a weakened thyroid. Iodoral is something you might like to look into and check into because it's fantastic. And, just because things are mentioned on shows, I just want to point this out. You should really have somebody that's competent to test you on what you need. You can check with your doctors, but muscle testing is a great way for your body to tell you what it needs in what order and what priority. And having someone that's very competent in that can help you immensely, because just throwing this at your body because you hear it's good for you and that at your body because it's good for you can really mess up your systems. So there is a protocol that I use when I test people that has them go through a program of graduation from working with one organ system to the next organ system. And when that one's corrected, then we move on to this one and correct that one. The body has a very profound wisdom. And I hope that you'll take that to heart and you can get tested here at Making Life Brighter. You can go to makinglifebrighter.com for everything that I've mentioned today. And we will continue this conversation of quantum healing and body system health as we go forward. Thank you for listening. Please share and shout out to everybody who's listening from around the world. Go jolly, everybody. and go out and make somebody else's life brighter. See you next week.